Hi everyone, welcome to this how-to video for using your student passport as a Linden Learning Specialist. So to get started, you'll want to know where you can access your student passports, and that takes us to the Linden Global Learning Specialist Hub. By now, you should have been given access to this Google site. This is an internal site. And if you haven't, please reach out to your supervisor at Linden so that you can get access to the site. It's a really great resource for accessing curriculum materials, general onboarding materials. There are some FAQ pages about scheduling and billing. There are client satisfaction surveys. So a lot of great resources for you to use from this hub. So in order to get to your student passports to begin progress monitoring and then progress reporting for your students at Linden, you'll want to navigate to the Student Progress Monitoring and Reporting tab here in the hub. And we're going to start by clicking on Linden Student Passports. So what is a student passport? This is sort of what we call the access for our students to success in any school around the globe. The Linden Student Passport is a goal tracker that helps you develop and track the growth of your client or your students in different areas of growth. And we use this passport to prepare for progress monitoring check-ins with families, to set student-centered goals, to discuss the students' progress and growth with families or schools, to set new goals for upcoming phases of learning, evaluate and revise goals, and also to generate student progress reports, which is what we'll talk about at the end of this how-to video. On the Student Passport page, you'll see buttons to various resources within the hub and then within the Linden Google Drive for accessing your Student Passport folder and also accessing progress report templates for when you want to turn the passport into a progress report. Your passport looks just like this, and I'm actually going to open this into a new tab. So here's a template. On the main page is just general how to use. There are sharing guidelines, how to handle multiple specialists who work with the same student, how to update students' goals once they've mastered it, and I'll show you that in a moment, and also how to use the passport to then generate a progress report, which should take you no longer than maybe 15 to 20 minutes to complete if you have a very clear vision of your students' goals and their progress. You can see here at the bottom that there are multiple sheets or tabs with various purposes. The second tab after the How to Use page is your progress overview, and this will be organized by academic school year, which is why mine says 2023 to 2024. This is essentially your dashboard of student progress. It's also where you can list all the specialists who happen to work with a particular student. And you can select the area and put the meeting days and times that they might work with students so that you know what the student is doing throughout the week. And, if there are multiple specialists working with one student, you can start to collaborate on their goals. This is where you'll also see a general graph here that maps the progress towards each area of growth, each goal, over different learning intervals. You can always rename these goals if you need to remind yourself. So maybe there's a writing goal, and that will update in your table as well. See, writing. The third tab is your actual student goal tracker. This is where you set goals for your students. You determine how you will measure students' growth towards that goal. And then over different intervals throughout your learning, your time working with the student, you'll get to rate whether the student met the goal, an explanation of progress, and an optional narrative summary to explain your student's progress towards the goal and whether or not they met it. You can see the intervals available here. You have 3 months, you have 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. These are mere suggestions. So it really is up to you if you want to add an option to meet with the family at the 1 month mark, and maybe you're checking in monthly, then you absolutely can make that change to your version of the table and then set this as 1 month instead. At the goal setting phase, you're going to first determine the different areas of need for your student. And at Linden, we're asking that specialists have at least one passport that they're using with a student, and that they set at least one goal for that student on the passport, and that they're communicating progress at least once per year. These expectations may change, but for now, as we're rolling this out, the expectation is one passport, one goal, one report. So, how do we actually get started in writing a goal? Well, when you meet the student, you might do some general informal assessment. Maybe you ask them to do a writing sample for you if you are sort of like a literacy specialist, or maybe you have them take a self um, sort of assessment, like a survey that is assessing their executive functioning needs, if you are an executive functioning skills coach. Then you'll create a goal that follows some general guidelines. Goals should be specific. They should be something you can measure. They should be time bound. They should also be encouraging, something that the students actually can achieve within a defined period of time. If you need help writing goals, or you want to use AI, or you want to look at some examples of IEP goals, for instance, in different areas, on the 5th tab of your passport is some goal writing support. The one thing that we ask, though, is that these goals, while specific, also don't sound robotic. They really should be tailored to your students' needs and really keep the human in mind. Once you set a goal, you also want to talk about and think about how you're measuring student growth. So if I have a goal in executive functioning, for instance, of a student being able to follow multi-step directions, then I might set as the measurement of that growth some kind of student self-reflection, or maybe even a general observation. Again, you can change and update these by clicking the edit button and adding another item to your drop-down menu at any time on your own template. At the check-in mark, so if it's 1 month or maybe it's even 9 months, depending on what's appropriate for your student, you will gather that data based on whatever it is, the writing sample, numeracy screener, an actual assessment or observation. And then you're going to set a numeric value to show the student's growth rate. So 5 is a student met the goal and maybe they need a new goal, and we'll talk about that in a moment. 1 would be no progress at all. And if that was the case, you want to select an explanation of progress. So I have some general template options for you. You can always add your own by clicking that edit button. Maybe the goal was too ambitious. Maybe the goal was too easy, or maybe there was some chronic absenteeism and you have to discuss showing up to sessions on time with the family and the student. You can also add an optional narrative summary here as well in your own words if you want to just keep track. Having this narrative summary really helps when you need to use this passport to generate a progress report in the future. You'll notice if I go back to my second tab of the progress overview, that here at the 3-month mark, for instance, my student is making an average of, a 1 point of progress here. And it also shows me that chronic absenteeism right here. So whatever I selected as the explanation of progress will show up, and I can see that right away in the dashboard. This is helpful too if you're sharing this dashboard with the family or even with any learning support specialist at the student's school, so they can see how the student is doing, general progress, and an explanation of the progress as well. And again, this will update for you as you go through each goal. Now, if a student meets a goal, hooray, that means that all the criteria in the goal by the specific time, according to however you've measured it, whether it's a math quiz or some other method, the student has met the goal. I would select 5, indicating they met the goal and a new goal is needed. And then what I would do is I would set a new goal for my student, right? But I want to keep track of this existing goal so I can remember what they've worked on throughout the year. So I would simply copy and paste this goal into the 4th tab, which is Mastered Goals. This is your archive. This is where you can keep track of the goals you've set for your student over a period of time, in which area, an explanation of the progress, even the date met. So I would put today's date, 11/6. And the specialist, especially if you are sharing this passport with multiple specialists, then it's helpful to know in which area and with whom the goal was met. You can also add any notes here at the top, and I should put that here if you need to. And this just is your archive so that you know what the student has already met. It's really wonderful to celebrate this with the family, with the student as well. So this is sort of your archive here. So this is the passport. And again, you have the how to use page at the front, which also has links to the various tabs within the document, like the progress overview, the goal writing support tab, and the master's goal tab. And when you get the hang of using the passport, you can also start to use it to generate progress reports. Let's go back for a moment to our hub. So once you've set meaningful goals, and we do have a little Linden passport template here for some reminders to keep front of mind when you're setting goals for your students. You're tracking your meaningful progress. Where will this passport be housed? We have in our Linden Drive a student passport folder, and you'll see that every specialist, if you don't have one now, you will, has their own passport folder. And when you access this, all you'll see is your own passport folder with your title and your name. Within your passport folder, you'll have your own copy of this template, which you can adjust according to your style, as long as you're maintaining the basic guidelines of setting and communicating goals and progress. When you have a new student, or you want multiple passports, maybe you want to go beyond that goal of just one student, you can make a copy of this in your drive. So I would simply make a copy, rename it. So instead of copy of student passport template, I would put my student's initials for this passport. So I would probably say NS passport, assuming their initials are NS. And then I would get going using it and tailoring it for the needs of my student. So you all have your own template to make copies of within your student passport folder, and these will be shared with you by a member of the core team. These passport folders live in the general Linden team drive, and you can see there are multiple folders here with tons of resources, all of which can easily be navigated to from the hub. When you're ready to communicate progress with families, step 3, you can either set a student progress meeting during a regularly scheduled session. You could schedule a student progress meeting outside the regularly scheduled session for which the family agrees to be billed for 1 additional hour. You could schedule a 15-minute conversation, which can take place during your 15-minute prep time. And you can also write a progress report and simply share that. And if the family has questions, they can always follow up with you during your 15-minute prep time or during an email. So let's get to progress reporting at Linden. This is also a page here on the hub called Progress Reports and Templates. There is a how-to guide here called Unlocking Progress, which is a comprehensive guide to efficient reporting at Linden Global Learning. This also tells you when you can bill and what some expectations should be in terms of the time you invest in writing these progress reports. Now, if your family has asked for some general kind of report that involves a specific template, I have those basic and most commonly requested templates on the hub at the very bottom here. There's sort of a library. So a report to update services would take you to this Google Doc, which we just asked that you make a copy of, and you can follow the template. Same with a general IEP or progress report. If you're looking for something more specific, we do have this progress report template folder, which we are continuing to build out and add to, with different both samples and templates for different kinds of support. like a statement of IEP goals, or a template for writing a BIP, or a template for just a general progress report for a student, or even a school observation if you're asked to do that as well. If something is missing, please reach out to clara@lindeneducation.com or someone from the core team to ask for a new template or another useful report. We're always looking to build out our resources. So, student progress monitoring and reporting, it's an essential part of what you do here at Linden. We really, really appreciate you. And we also just ask that as you're going through building out your passport, you keep your students' needs and unique learning styles top of mind. Thank you for everything you do.